my breakfast and I got my coffee. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit today about closing costs and what to expect. I think there's a lot of miscommunication or just myths about how much you're going to need to bring to closing. So there's several different loan options, right? If you're a veteran, you're able to exercise use of your VA benefit and do 0% down. But there's also 3 to 4% in closing costs on the other side of that. So if we're talking $300,000 for a purchase price, then you're going to need 3 to 4% of that purchase, which equals about $10,500 if we're just using rough numbers. But what you don't know is that sellers are really actually pretty open right now to still paying closing costs on a purchase. So if you're a veteran doing a 0% loan, then you can ask the seller to pay $10,000 to $11,000, or maybe up to 4% is pretty conservative of your overall closing costs. And that would make you only have to come to the table with your escrow deposit, which can be as little as $500 or $1,000 or whatever you want to add on the contract to make your offer stand out. But that could be the minimum that you'd have to bring to closing. Wouldn't that be amazing to just to be able to come to the closing table and not have to bring any more funds because the seller is going to be covering some of those costs? The other costs that would incur on the purchase would be like home inspections, appraisals, and surveys. And home inspections can get up to $1,000 if you have a well and a septic. But if you don't have a well and a septic on the property, then you can pretty much stick with your termite inspection, your 4-point, your wind mitigation, and your home inspection. So if you're a veteran, you could come to the table with just as little as your escrow deposit. Now, if you're not a veteran and you're going conventional or FHA, a lot of lenders right now are being extremely creative, and they're actually offering for conventional, some are doing 1%, some are doing 3%. So you don't always have to do the standard 5% that is customary. Now, if you're wanting to have no PMI, which is private mortgage insurance on the loan, generally you have to bring 20% down. Now, there are some other conventional loan methods that could allow you to not have to bring as much to closing for you to be able to avoid that. But generally, you're going to have PMI insurance on a conventional loan if you're not putting 20% down. Now, there's a lot of myths with that, with FHA and conventional, with the PMI. So let me go ahead and break that down. If you do an FHA loan, you will have PMI on the life of the loan. You can't remove it unless you refinance to a conventional loan. If you do conventional, PMI will stay on the loan up until you have 20% in equity on the home, and it can be removed. So when you're choosing financing options, look at what's going to be best for you in the long run. Sometimes all you can afford is an FHA loan just because of debt to income ratios are lower. But I think that's when it's a good time to sit down with a local mortgage loan officer. I have quite a few in our office, and also locally that would love to sit down with you. It's kind of like every person has their own separate situation in life, right? Nobody is the same, right? So you have different financial situations, you have different credit, you have different debts. So you have to kind of sit down with somebody to have someone look at your whole financial picture before you know like how much you can purchase, your purchasing power and things like that, and then also what type of loan would be best for you. So that's my kind of tidbit for today. There's my real estate advice that I have for you on this beautiful Friday afternoon. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend and enjoy the rest of your day, and I will talk with you soon.